Hi there. Welcome to Brian A. School of Law, your go-to place for all your legal knowledge and needs, irrespective of jurisdiction. In this video lesson, we are going to continue with Constitutional Law 101, Part 3, wherein we shall review Chapters 5 and 6 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. In the previous lesson, we reviewed Chapter 4, which was on the Bill of Rights, and in this lesson, we look at Chapter 5 on the land and environment, and Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. Welcome and enjoy the lesson. Let's jump right into it. Chapter 5 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is on land and environment, land being a very emotive issue in Kenya, and the environment being at the forefront in the fight against climate change. Article 60 provides for the principles of land policy in Kenya, and they are, among others, that if you own land, either through leasehold or freehold, which we shall look at into shortly what those two terms mean, you should ensure that you utilize your land in a way that is equitably accessible to all. There should be security of the land rights. The land should be used in a sustainable and productive manner. And the way you utilize your land should be transparent and the use of cost-effective administration of land, in that you should not use your land in a manner that is wasteful or in a manner that is not transparent. Again, I will explain what all this means shortly. As well as your land, you should use your land in a way that is sound, and you should conserve it and protect it in a way that is ecologically sensitive. And also in the administration and use of land, there should be the elimination of gender discrimination in law, customs, and practices, in that women and men have equal access to land in Kenya. Women can also own land, and in fact, I did a paper on this, the property rights of women under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and I shall be sharing with you shortly in the course of these lessons. And also another principle of land policy is the encouragement of communities to settle land disputes through recognized local community initiatives consistent with this constitution. In that before you take, if it is community land, before you take the issue to court, you should sit down as a community through the barazas or wazis and see whether you can solve your issues. You call the chiefs, call the village elders, and see if you can sort your issues before you take it to a higher level like the courts. Good. Classification of land. This is how land is classified in Kenya. And we have three types of classifications, which is public land, community land, and private land. And it is also important to note that all land in Kenya belongs to the people of Kenya, collectively as a nation, as communities, and as individuals. Now, for public land is defined as land which is lawfully held or used or occupied by any state organ. For example, if a land is held or occupied by parliament or by the executive or by the judiciary, that land is public land, except where such land has been leased or has been rented on a private lease. Let's say if you are an owner of a piece of land and then a state organ approaches you to lease that land, to use it for a particular time of period, in a private lease, that land is not public land, but that land is public land leased for public purposes. Public land is also land transferred to the state by way of a sale, reversion, or surrender. If the state buys land from you, or if you surrender your land to the state for one reason or another, that land becomes public land. Public land is also land in respect to which no individual or community ownership can be established. So if it is just land which is over there and no one knows whom it belongs to, or no community has claim over it, that is public land. It is also land in respect of which no heir can be identified by any legal process. This means that supposing you are an owner of land and then you pass on and then you have no heirs, you have no one to inherit your land whatsoever, that land will be transferred to the state and it will be public land, a doctrine called escheat. And then all minerals and mineral oils as defined by law, all these form part of public land. Public land also includes government forests, government game reserves, water catchment areas, national parks, government animal sanctuaries, and specially protected areas. All roads and thoroughfares, as provided for by an act of parliament, also constitute government land. All rivers and lakes other than water bodies as defined by an act of parliament also constitute government land. Good. The territorial sea and the exclusive economic zone. The exclusive economic zone is that area in the sea that, for example, in Kenya, the 21 kilometers after the beach in the Indian Ocean where Kenya can do fishing and other economic activities. That is also part of public land. The Continental Shelf. This is that area where the sea level is low and you can see the land, maybe like, for example, when you walk around the beach and then you walk where you can walk, but indeed there is water on your feet. That's an example of the Continental Shelf. That is also public land. All land between the high and low water marks. The high and low water marks is where the water reaches during a high tide, and where the low water mark is where the water reaches during the low tide. And all these are part of public land. And also any land which is not classified as community or private, that land is public land. And then it is provided for that public land shall vest in the county government and in the national government and shall be administered on behalf of us Kenyans by the National Land Commission. Good. And then public land shall not be disposed of or sold in any other way unless specified by an act of parliament. In that the leaders of Kenya cannot just wake up and decide to sell part of the public land. Then we have community land. Community land is land which is held by communities identified on the basis of ethnicity, culture, or a similar community of interest. And community land consists of land which has been lawfully registered in the name of a group of representatives under any provision of law. So if a group comes together and buys some land and register it in the name of their group, that is community land. Land lawfully transferred to a specific community by any process of law, that is community land. And any other land that shall be declared as community land by an act of parliament, that is community land. Good. Community land also includes land that is lawfully held, managed, or used by specific communities as community forests, or as grazing areas, or as shrines, areas of prayer. Community land also includes ancestral lands and lands that are traditionally occupied by hunters and gatherer communities, as well as land lawfully held as trust land by county governments. As we have said, county governments will hold land on behalf of us citizens, and those who hold, and if the county government holds it on behalf of a group or a community in trust, that is community land. Good. Then we have private land. This is land which is owned by individuals privately, and it consists of land that is registered and held by any person under any freehold tenure. Freehold simply means that this person holds this land without any duration of time, without any time limit. He or she holds the land indefinitely. Private land also includes land held by any person under leasehold tenure. Leasehold simply means this land is held by this person for a duration of time, or there's a time limit in it. It can be 2 years, 3 years, 21 years, 99 years, and etc. Land holding by non-citizens. This constitution provides that non-citizens can hold land, but however they can hold land only on a lease basis, in that there will be a time limit on which they can hold land, and that will not exceed 99 years. And if there is any agreement that gives a non-citizen leasehold tenure of more than 99 years, it shall be construed or it shall be interpreted to be meaning 99 years. Good. Regulation of land use and property. The state may regulate the use of any land or any interest in land on the basis of public health, public order, safety, morality, land use planning, etc. And then there is established the National Land Commission, whose functions are to manage public land on behalf of the national and county governments, to recommend a national land policy to the national government, to advise the national government on a comprehensive program for the registration of land, to conduct research related to land and use of natural resources, and to make recommendations as appropriate, to initiate investigations on its own initiative or on a complaint into present and historical land injustices, and recommend appropriate redress. This is what is really trying to be done in Kenya by the National Land Commission to address historical land injustices. The National Land Commission shall also encourage the application of traditional dispute resolution mechanisms in land conflicts, as we have talked of earlier. They shall also assess tax on land and premiums on movable property, and they shall also monitor and have oversight responsibilities over land use planning throughout the country. Legislation on land. Parliament was mandated to come up with laws that will revise and consolidate and rationalize existing land laws, to revise sectoral land use, and also to enact legislation that will prescribe the minimum and maximum landholding acreages in respect of private land, to regulate the manner in which any land may be converted from one category to another, to protect and conserve and provide access to all public land, etc. And in doing this, the government has come up with the National Land Commission Act, the Land Act, and the Land Registration Act. All these were enacted in the year 2012, and we shall review them in the course of these lessons when we tackle land law. The environment and natural resources. The state has obligations in respect to the environment, in that it shall ensure sustainable exploitation, utilization, and management, as well as conservation of the environment. The state shall work to achieve and maintain a tree cover of at least 10% of the land area in Kenya. So 10% of the land area in Kenya must be covered by trees. And this is also what they signed up for in the United Nations Convention, the Kyoto Protocol, and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The state shall also encourage public participation in the management and protection and conservation of the environment. And this also happens, as you see, the Forest Act 2016 gives the Community Forest Association a say in the conservation of the forests. The state shall establish systems of environmental impact assessment, environmental audit, and monitoring of the environment. The state shall eliminate the processes and activities that are likely to endanger the environment, and the state shall utilize the environment and natural resources for the benefit of the people of Kenya. So the state shall not use this environment in individualistic ways. And then every person, every citizen in Kenya has the duty to cooperate with state organs and other persons to protect and conserve the environment. Enforcement of environmental rights. This is a very interesting area. If a person alleges that a right to a clean and healthy environment recognized and protected under this constitution is likely to be denied, violated, or infringed, any person may apply to court for redress in addition to any other legal remedy. When you make this application, the court may make any order or give any directions it considers appropriate to prevent or stop or discontinue any act or omission that is harmful to the environment, to compel any public officer to take measures to prevent or discontinue any act or omission that is harmful to the environment, and to provide compensation for any victim of a violation of a right to a clean environment. This means that maybe if a factory is to be established in your locality and you feel that this factory will contribute a lot in environmental pollution through emission of greenhouse gases, you can go to court and state that and seek redress at this court, that the court to stop this company from establishment. And the court, upon evaluation, can do the necessary. Also important to understand that for the purposes of this article in the enforcement of environmental rights, that person who goes to court does not have to demonstrate that any person has incurred loss or suffered injury. In that, when you go to court, it's not a must that there be loss or injury, but rather it is threatened, or if that action is allowed, there will be loss and injury in terms of environmental rights. Agreements relating to natural resources. This is a transaction that's subject to ratification of Parliament that will involve the grant of a right or concession by or on behalf of another person, including the national government, to another person for the exploitation of natural resources. For example, the government, through an act of Parliament, can issue a factory, maybe let's say, for example, a water factory, to explore some rivers or some lakes where they can come up with good and clean sources of water. So you are given exploration rights to explore or to access some of the public resources. Good. And then Parliament was mandated to enact legislation to give full effect of this part on the environment. And Parliament has come up with the Climate Change Act of 2016, as well as a policy called the National Climate Change Act policy of 2017 to 2022, which also deals with protection of the environment. Chapter 6, leadership and integrity. This is a very good area, especially now that we are seeing many leaders in Kenya are falling short of this chapter. And if you want to know how you're a leader, or if you want to be a leader, this is the chapter that you should really, really look into. And the responsibilities of any leader in Kenya, from the president down to the members of the county assembly, or for a state officer. A state officer is someone who works for the state, maybe the judiciary, the legislature, or the executive in one or another, and the responsibilities are to be exercised in a manner that is consistent with this constitution. They should demonstrate respect for the people of Kenya. They should bring honor to the nation and dignity to the office that they hold, and they should promote public confidence in the integrity of the office that they hold. The guiding principles of leadership and integrity include selection on the basis of personal integrity, competence, and suitability, or election in free and fair elections. So if you are choosing a leader, that leader should be selected on the basis of personal integrity, competence, and suitability, or on free and fair elections. Again, Kenya, we are facing so much challenges in this area. 2, leadership and integrity should include objectivity and impartiality in decision making, in that the leader should not be biased in any way. Also, the leader should be selfless and should be service oriented. The leader should be honest in the execution of public duties, and with the declaration of, and the leader should declare any personal or conflict of interest when undertaking his or her duties. The leader should be accountable to the public for all his or her decisions and actions, and the leader should be disciplined and committed in service to the people. The oath of office, before assuming a state office or in an acting capacity or performing any other function of the state, that person should subscribe to an oath of office. That's why you see the president took an oath of office, the members of parliament and the senators took oath of office, and the judges, including the chief justice, take an oath of office. The conduct of state officers, their conduct should be in a manner that avoids any conflict between personal interests and the public. Their conduct should be in a manner that avoids compromising any public or official interest in favor of a personal interest. And their conduct should be in a manner that avoids demeaning the office that they hold. Good. And if a state officer or a leader breaches this section of the law, they shall be subject to the applicable disciplinary procedure, and they may, in accordance with the disciplinary procedure, be dismissed or otherwise removed from office. Good. And a person who has been removed from office shall not be eligible to hold any other office. Financial probity is the financial morality of state officers. A state officer shall not be given a gift or a donation in a public or official occasion, and if given that gift or donation, that gift or donation shall be delivered to the state as it will be determined to be part of the state. A state officer shall not maintain a bank account outside Kenya except when allowed by an act of parliament, and a state officer shall not seek or accept a personal loan or benefit in circumstances that compromise the integrity of the state officer. Restriction on activities of a state officer. A state officer's job shall be full-time and shall not participate in other gainful employment so as to fully serve the people. And then any appointed state officer shall not hold office in a political party. And a retired state officer who is receiving a pension from public funds shall not hold more than 2 concurrent paying positions as a chairperson, director, or an employer or an employee of any company owned or controlled by the state or a state organ. Good. Citizenship and leadership. A person is not eligible for election or appointment to a state office unless that person is a citizen of Kenya. So non-foreigners, non-Kenyans are not eligible to hold to all state offices. A state officer or a member of defense forces shall not hold dual citizenship. Legislation to establish the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We have the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act, which establishes the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And this commission, as we have seen, has really tried to discipline errant state officers. Legislation on leadership. Parliament has enacted the Leadership and Integrity Act. And dear class, this is just a brief part on leadership and integrity. To see more on this, you can go to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act, and also the Leadership and Integrity Act, to understand how state officers are really supposed to behave when they are representing us as Kenyans. We have the case where the Nairobi senator was caught flouting the COVID-19 rules. Again, that one is subject to, I'll leave that to you to decide if that was indeed part of leadership and integrity. And we also have the cases where some members of parliament have been charged in a court of law and have been convicted for grave corruption claims, and have probably the largest or the biggest corruption case that has been fully determined in a court of law in Kenya. And again, I will let that to you to decide whether those leaders are in line with leadership and integrity. Also, I encourage you to evaluate the leaders around you, your governor, your president, your MCAs, your MP, your senator. Look into this leadership and integrity area and see if indeed they are acting according to the provisions of the Constitution. In the next class, we shall go through chapter 7, which is the representation of the people, and then we shall see here the electoral system and processes, the legislature, how we elect the members of parliament and the senators, which is another crucial area. As Kenyans, we are shortly going into another election in the year 2022, which is almost here with us. Again, I want to thank you so much for staying through the class. I'm really enjoying these classes. I'm really enjoying your feedbacks. I'm really enjoying how you are getting empowered. And by the grace of God, I pray that we shall continue, we shall grow the community. Remember, like these videos, share them widely, and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the button on the bottom right of this video. And as I say, a legally empowered citizen is a well cut out citizen for the world at such a time as this. Ciao.